Rory, how are you doing, sir? Rory? All right, fine. He's
it's
left
that magic mute button.
Yeah.
The only way to shut me up. I was just saying I was doing good, but hearing your introduction there, it's like I was originally thinking, well, there can't be too much to show here. Again, like you said, 20, 30 minutes, and then you showed me one thing before we started, and I was like, oh dear, this is going to get big. So,
yeah, I know. I was like, oh, and take a look at this one right here. So, all right, so let's do this. Whoops, I don't want to be here. I want to be in, actually, the class I want to look at is comic book. There it is right there. I think, is that it? Uh-oh, that's not what I want. I was doing some prep and then I shut down and some story, that's where I want to be. All right, so let's start out. I just want to just work with let's see. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. Hold on a second. Just a second. Bear with me a minute. We'll edit this out of the final. We'll get Jeff to do to get this piece out of here. All right. So let's create a new. I'm just going to create a new method, and we'll get this piece that's interesting to me. I have. The piece that I was looking at, I was saying, let's go into system.appdomain and go into current domain. Oops. System.appdomain.current domain first chance exception. That's what I was looking at right there. And so let's hook into that right there. That's what I wanted to do. And so what I've done is I've just gone into Visual Studio using just IntelliSense in Visual Studio, and I've created a new event handler for this event. Let's go in and we'll enable the keys so you can see the keys that I'm pressing. So it's of type first chance exception event args, and then we come down here and those are passed in right there. Let's clean this up a little bit so we can see it all in one line. We'll remove all this type qualifier everywhere it occurs. And then so we know first chance exception coming in. Inside here we'll write some code real quickly. So if e.exception dot let's say message dot to upper, oops, didn't quite get upper all the way, dot index of null, that is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0, then we might have some code right here where we do something. And then we might also have something that we work with another part of exception down in here. So we say if e.exception dot, and instead of here we might go with, let's say, the inner exception is null reference exception. Then we might have some other code that works here. So what I'm doing is I'm building some code based on property access of a parameter. So we've got e.exception.message, e.exception.innerException. Now all of this is in an event handler, so we can't change these parameters here. However, if we extract the code into something that's not an event handler, then we get into a situation that is, I think, a little bit more common. So we'll call this check exception, like this. Right? So we get code that is a little bit more common, right? You've got a method, you have a complex object you're passing in, that complex object has properties on it, and then you're accessing the properties. And so the first refactoring that I will show you is called Decomposed Parameter. It allows me to take a parameter like this and change it into something that is based on its real usage inside. And that allows me to essentially get to simpler classes, right? Instead of having a complex class that has many properties, I can now have one or more simpler classes, which makes this method, which can make this method easier to exploit, easier to use, right? If I ultimately break this down into strings and integers, for example, then anybody can make a call to this method, which can be useful for testing and useful for encouraging reuse. So Decomposed Parameter, it's available on the parameter, and so we'll just choose that there. You can see we're changing it to exception, and then now we're passing in an exception to it. So that's step one. if I do the same refactoring, it's actually available one more time. I can do it again now, and now I can pass in the inner exception and a message if I want to, changing the call to be like this. And by the way, I should have scrolled down a bit there. You can see it's changing all the call sites automatically when I decompose. So Decomposed Parameter is great for that purpose, and I'm passing in a message and an inner exception. Okay, the next one I wanted to show you is with volume. Here, let's just tab the next reference, see where it exists. Here you can see I've got a property called volume. It's public. It has a private setter, but the private setter is never being used, and I can see that because it's grayed out. CodeRush has highlighted the dead code for me there, so I can see that. So I can put the caret there on the private setter. I can hit the CodeRush refactor key, and I can choose remove private setter, and it will get rid of it for me. And there's what I get left. When I say hit the CodeRush refactor key, I should probably give just a brief review on that. By default, it's Control plus backtick. And but also I've bound it as an alternate binding to num0. I press num0 on mine, and that is a shortcut binding that we talk about in previous sessions in terms of how to enable that. So I'm hitting num0. When you see num0, that's the CodeRush refactor key. Okay. Down here I have a method called hasReadMin. So we're just calculating to see if the total time spent reading is over a minimum amount of time, and I have an expression that does not that can be evaluated in its own without any additional parameters. It doesn't depend on any local variables for evaluation. And because of that, I can extract that as its own property. So I can select the expression, hit the CodeRush refactor key, choose extract property, and put that, go ahead and put it right there, and then we'll call this total time spent reading, something like that. In fact, I'll just copy this, and I'll paste this here using Control B, which is paste replace. Notice it changes in both places. Make it uppercase, and then come down here and inline recent assignment. And that code, in my opinion, is much cleaner. And also
much cleaner, more easily readable, isn't it?
Yes, and it also allows me to, it encourages reuse on that calculation, right? So just like extract method does, but this is a case where I can extract the property out. Okay, let's see, what next? Title. So with title, we've got some backing store, but if we do a tab to next reference through this, we're not really using that backing store effectively. And you can see in the getter and setter, there's no side effect code in either one of these two, right? In the getter and the setter, we're directly writing to that field variable. So when that is the case, we can actually convert that to an auto-implemented property. And here you can see CodeRush highlights that with the issue. You see the squiggly line right there, and the issue says convert to auto-implemented property. So if my hand's on the mouse, I can click that. If I'm searching through the issues, if I'm pressing the, what is it to get to them? I thought it was, is it alt page down to get there? That's right. It's alt page down.
Page up, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So alt page down, if I'm using that, then I can use the down arrow to get that double underline and hit enter on it. So enter on it will do that conversion for me if my hands are on the keyboard. And also I can just hit the CodeRush refactor key to get to it, and I can choose convert to auto-implemented property as well.
So you see this quite a lot where you're dealing with legacy code that maybe you've just upgraded to .NET, what, 3.5, 4? Depends on
sure.
which language. Also, CodeRush knows if you're using VB or C# which version it's applicable to. So if your current language does not support that, it won't be prompting you to do that.
That is correct, yeah. Good. Those are all good points.
VB and C# were out of step there, so we're not just checking your .NET version, we're checking your actual language version.
So there's a call that's made out that says, does the language support it? And that part of that call is checking what the language, what the version is of the .NET framework in addition to the language. The other one I wanted to show related to that is also when speaking of legacy code, Rory, is this one to convert auto-implemented property, convert all. So if you're bringing your legacy code over, you've got a lot of these getters and setters that are just reading and writing the same field variable. You can convert all of them at once, like that.
Nice.
Very simple, very easy. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, down here I have get add, and inside add I create a new add, and I say assign some properties to it. And CodeRush highlights this as an issue. It says an initializer can be used, so we can convert that code right there. I'll get the hint out of the way. That code right there, we can convert to an initializer. And so the preview hint looks like that. And that's what we end up getting out of that. So convert to initializer. We also have the opposite of that, which is decompose initializer. So that takes you backwards. Okay, so you can go forwards and backwards, taking advantage of the initializers. Okay, now down here, page count. So we've got this property called page count, and I've got it's auto-implemented. But now let's say I want to create backing store for it. For example, I might want to actually create a side effect for this. For example, on the setter. So let's create backing store. Hit the CodeRush refactor key. Choose create backing store. And now inside my setter, I might say something like if page count is less than 0, then I might throw a new exception. TNE is for throwing a new exception, and then explain what that exception is, that sort of thing. Okay. All right. So there is that is create backing store. Okay, encapsulate field. Let's show you that next. So here I have this field variable add count. I have no property associated with it, and there it is right there. It only occurs there when where it is assigned. And now I can hit the CodeRush refactoring key on this and choose encapsulate field. And if I do it, I have two options: one for read only and one for read write. And in general, I use read only. I use this most of the time, right? Just creating that read only property access to it to the field variable. So there you can see now it shows up in add count right there. There's my read only access. If I undo that and come back down here to add count, I have another option, which is encapsulate field. And we'll put it right there. And now I've made it read write. And now CodeRush is going through all the assignments and asking, hey, do you want to replace the field with the property? And this is valuable if in your setter you might have some additional code, like maybe you're logging, maybe you're validating, things like that. So this is a nice step right here. And if I want to just replace all, I can click this or press Control-Enter down here in the bottom right. It shows what the keys I can press for this. I can press Escape to simply stop it if I'm not interested in making any changes. So I'll just go ahead and hit Escape right now, and we'll keep that assignment directly to the field. Okay. I'm sorry, Roy?
No, I was just thinking that that's particularly useful when you've got well, something that's typically, as you say, a private field is used only internally within the system. So the two side effects of that is one, to create the property which is then exposed outside of the class, but also because you have this property now, you can produce side effects. And so it's useful, as you say, to have the system let you know, well, here are all the places you're currently accessing the variable from inside the class. Would you like to change any of these so that they access through the property and hence induce the side effect? Right,
exactly. Yeah, I like it. So I'm just cleaning and simplifying this up here. Let's go back to this our check exception code that we wrote in here. So we have this check exception code, right? And we use decompose parameter to get it down to this message, this string and exception that we're passing into it. Now what we can do is if we want to actually consolidate that, or actually let's do one other thing. Let's add a parameter really quickly here, and we'll add this. Maybe a Boolean right here. So a Boolean parameter, maybe like a deep check kind of thing, where we have like additional analysis if this were true. We'll pass in, I'm okay passing in false right there. Hit escape to get back. So now we have these three pieces that we're now passing in. Now let's say we want to turn those into a class itself. We can do that by selecting the parameters we want to combine, hitting the CodeRush refactor key, choosing introduce parameter object, and now it's going to combine those now. It's to some degree almost the opposite of decompose parameter, and I'll go ahead and keep it with, I'll go with the name check exception args here, and we'll hit escape to get back, and now you can see what's happening in the code now. Now we're accessing check exception args dot message and interception. I might change this to simply just the letter E. Oops. Oh, did I hit undo? I did. I have my function lock on here on my keyboard. All right. Sorry, I'll do that one more time.
So this introduced parameter object. This is something very useful. I believe the for those of you who've read clean code, it's advocated in there what the optimum number of parameters for any method is supposedly 0, because it has absolutely a guarantee of barring any reading of the field and what have you, one path of logic that it can possibly have, and therefore the simplest to understand. And the more parameters you add to a method, the more choices potentially can be made on the basis of those, and the harder it is to read. With a single unified concept, like in our args thing here, you know that you always have all three. And once you've absorbed that concept, you don't need to, here's another method that takes the same tree, and another, and you can you create this unified concept that you can reuse in multiple locations. It's very, very nice for easing readability of a method.
Right. I think the thing that is, the takeaway from both Decomposed Parameter and Introduced Parameter Object, the takeaway is that you can totally go in either direction, right? CodeRush makes it pretty easy to combine parameters together and also to tease them apart.
Sure.
And I bring up both of these when we're talking in the context of properties, because both of them are related to the property access inside of the method, right? Are we accessing e.message, or are we going to do e.something else, right, with regard to what we're passing in? Now that we've done that, we can now access that other value piece, right? We can say if deep check, right? That's now available right now. Then we can do, upside page down, we can do a check there. Okay, so that is cool. And then notice what happens over here in our call. We just created a new story.check exception args, and created a new instance of it passing those pieces. Okay, so that is introduce parameter object. All right, let's go back down to, I thought I had a property here called age. Oh wait, I know, over in customer I created it. So in customer I have age, and so we're going to be setting a value here to age, and it would be good to, one of the things we might do is we might have some sort of additional code that goes off here. Maybe go to the server and see what content is available, right? So we might have some lengthy call here. And so if that's the case, we might want to introduce a setter guard clause so we don't even make an attempt. And what that will do is it'll add this bit of code right here for us. If age is already equal to the value it's already set to, then we can simply return and get out of there. So that's add setter guard clause. Okay. And next, method to properties. So I have a method here called getName. In fact, let's do this first. Actually, you know what? We'll start with this. So I've got getName. I can put the caret here, choose method to property, and it'll convert it to a property called name. It'll also update all the calls in here. In fact, let's create a new call here. Let's create a new local type string, and we'll call this name. We'll say that's equal to getName. Close paren, and then come back down over here, and we will now method to property, and there you can see how it changes in both places. CodeRush highlights it with the green box. That means it's linked up to all the other properties, all the other references to it, and you can just make a change here, and it'll change everywhere else. Okay, so that's that first one. Let me undo that. Let's go back to where we had. So there's getName. Let's go up to name, and we'll hit the CodeRush refactor key on this, and actually let's go to the beginning of the line there, and we'll choose create setter method, and we'll put a setter method, put it right down here. So I've got an internal set name, and I have a get name right here. Let's see if I can get them both on screen at once. And I'm intentionally having this get total comics red right between the two. So we'll come back here, and we'll choose method to property again, and oh, I was hoping it to be smarter than that. Let's try method property here, and oh, interesting. So maybe they do have to be next to each other. Maybe our logic is looking for that. Are they right next to each other? Is that really where we are? Well, and now I'm not seeing what I'm expecting to see. Okay, so I'm gonna point the devs to this and have them take a look at it. It may be also something that is an issue with the code that I have as well. Let me just change this to, so I've got a setter so they both have the same proper visibility. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, I was totally expecting this to convert both of the methods to give me a single property that had both a getter and a setter. Oh, wait, you know what? I think it's maybe user error. It's just doing it one at a time. I think we talked about this. Let's see if what happens when I do this. There we go. Okay. So I apologize for that. Devs, you do not need to look at this. It was user error. Yeah, it was my expectation was different than the way it was working, because I think at one point we talked about grabbing both of them, and ultimately it looks like we decided to say, hey, if you're going to do method to property, we want you to grab, we want you to do it one piece at a time. So that's how we're doing it. So we can convert.
Well, that said, Mark, even though you are doing it one piece at a time, it did merge the two into each other when you picked the second one.
Yeah, exactly, and I probably did that pretty quickly.
It does still create a unified property. So that's
right.
Good.
Yeah. So that is the good thing. Yeah. So definitely, if you've got name already and you've got get name and you say method to property, it's going to put the getter inside of there. So. We can also do property to method on it, which is the reverse of this. And notice I had the caret just on the getter, and I pull that get name. Let's put the caret just on the setter and choose property to method. It should pull out just the setter. See that? And now let's put the caret on the beginning and choose property to method. And now look at that, property to methods is available. And I've set name and get name. Okay? So the only piece that we were, I think, missing that was based on my expectation was it seems like we need a methods to property refactoring, so that if I'm in this situation, I know I want to grab both of these. So here's my note to the developers, because the developers watch this, right? So developers, let's add a new refactoring called methods to property that's available either here or down here, and it converts both. It finds both of them, and they don't have to be next to each other. So anyway, yeah. All right, so good. So okay, so method to property, property to method, and I talked about introducing a setter guard clause here. Let's go back in here. We'll convert the we'll convert this to a property back to property again. Bring this one in as well, and we will introduce a setter guard clause because I need to show the opposite of that, which is remove setter guard clause. Right there, and that'll take it out. So you very quickly add a setter guard clause or remove it if you want to do that. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have? Let's take out the setter here. Okay, here I have a read-only property, and I can change it to a read-write by choosing add setter, and it'll just add that setter for us there automatically. Okay.
So we should remind people at this stage that the blue items in that menu are in fact not refactorings. They will potentially change the nature of your code and the side effects thereof, but in this case it's a very useful thing to do.
Right.
Whereas the refactorings will maintain the functional logic of your code.
Right. Everything in the top will maintain the functional logic exactly as Rory said. The program behavior will remain the same. We do have a few refactorings that can improve the speed, the performance, but the behavior remains the same. And
I believe the definition refers almost to the mathematical side effect. So 1 + 1 will always equal 2, both before and after any refactoring.
Yeah.
So that's a measurable side effect. Speed, as you say, could be improved. Also, readability will be altered. So, this is a good thing, though.
Yeah, generally going in the positive direction of easier to read. So let's see. So, all right. So add setter. Convert to auto-implemented property. I think I showed that. I think I showed that already.
I believe you did, yeah.
Let's see what's going on with name. We'll, yeah, I think I did that. Convert to auto-implemented property. I did show that. Declare getter, declare property. So we've got some declaration pieces, so I need some consume first code to be able to get that. So, so let's go into customer. I think in here we have the not in customer story. Let's go do this. We'll do some declare stuff for stuff over here in story. So we have this call over here to add, and we can access another property on here. We can say add dot customer name equals, and well, we need to do a little bit of code here because I don't think I have a customer in here yet. Customer, and let's declare a new customer of type customer there. And customer dot name. All right, so we'll come over here and we'll hit the CodeRush refactor key, and we'll choose declare property. Now we can choose one of these three. We can declare property auto implemented, or with backing store, or simply declare it without anything inside. These are pretty easy to imagine what these are going to do, right? I'm going to do this one right here, declare property, so you can see what it does give you. Well, it didn't give me what I was expecting to give, for it to give me. Let me go back and try that again, make sure. Declare property. Okay, there's my target picker, and then I can hit enter. This is what it gives me. So there's my throw new exception calls in both of these places. So this is kind of the standard code that Visual Studio will give you if you say I want to implement a new interface, for example. You'll get code that looks just like this. In fact, if we were to well, actually, let's look at this, because we talked about this, I think, last week. There were some cool things in here. You can convert it to an auto-implemented property, for example. You can do that. Oh, shoot, now I'm getting this thing again that happened before. I seem to get this on this machine every once in a while. Devs, I need you guys to look at this right here and see what is going on here. I'm not sure if this is let me save everything, because I think the only way out of this is to close Visual Studio and restart it up. So we'll start a second instance of Visual Studio here.
I've only ever seen that one time before, Mark, and it was on your machine.
Yeah, I've seen it on a couple times on here, and I'm working in a virtual PC, and I have this special software installed that's like essentially reading my screen all the time, right, to send it over to you. So, you know, we'll look into this and see what we can do with regards to being able to duplicate that. So I'm going to close down this instance of Visual Studio. I've started up a second instance of it, and we will open this back up and continue right along here. So,
I should take this opportunity just to remind everyone that you can ask us some questions on anything you've seen, anything related to what you're seeing. If we don't answer directly in the webinar, I'll either give you a text or an answer, or you can even contact either of us on our email addresses, find us in the forums. We're happy to answer questions pretty much around the clock, it feels like. And yeah, whatever you want to ask, just go right ahead.
Okay, comic book store. Let's open that up. Hey, Rory, can you note the time, and we'll tell Jeff to look at this time for delay. It's about 30 minutes in.
Yep.
And just with a note to Jeff to take a look at this.
I'll give him that note.
Oh, thanks, thank you, Amanda. And now you can like take out this pause. Make it go a little faster for anybody who's watching it. Okay, customer name. All right. So let's see. Let's kind of get back to where we were on this. I want to do this. I'm going to do. This is a similar demo to what I did last week. We'll do extract the interface right here. We'll come back over here. Let's get rid of these for a second. Now let's come in here and we'll use Visual Studio's feature to implement the interface. Okay, and then Visual Studio gives us all of this, right? All these throw, not implemented. So this is what Visual Studio gives us. But if you have CodeRush, what's cool is you can now come in here and you can hit the key and you can say convert to auto-implemented property, or convert with backing to property with backing store. So you get to decide how you want it implemented. So you can choose this across the board for each one of these. Just very quickly come in here. Now it's up at the top of the list because I just used it. So convert each one to an auto-implemented property like that. So very quick to it's very quick to come in and make these changes after Visual Studio has generated code for you. Okay, so we just did declare property. That's how we got to here. Declare property from this point right here, right? We specified property access from a consumption point of view and chose that. We can also, let's go in here and let's implement this as a backing store for it. Let's get rid of the getter on it. Okay, come back out over here, and so now let's do. So now everything works, but let's come in and say, well, if customer name equals s.e for string.empty. Then we want to have some code in here, but now this won't work because we don't have a getter on it. That's okay because using the consume first model, right, we can reference it and then come in here and choose declare getter. So that is declare getter, and now it's going to build that getter for us right there. Okay, so we have. So before this we saw declare property, we saw declare property auto implemented, and declare property with backing store. I'm not actually showing those two because we've seen examples of those. They're easy to imagine, right?
Yep.
Declare property.
It comes down to basically you can do more or less any of these operations from any place that seems sensible. You get additional options if you're doing it from inside the class, like declare field, because that's a logical option. However, from outside, from the consumption perspective of a class, you won't get that option because you don't typically reference fields from outside. So CodeRush is kind of always trying to provide you with a sensible set of options.
While agreed, and while Roy was talking, I am now I'm just creating more code here. I'm just going to declare this class out here real quickly. With nothing in it yet, and I've got a constructor that takes in add store, and I want to now assign the parameter to a property. So I can choose declare initialize property, and what it will do is it will declare a property for me and make the assignment for me automatically right there inside. And I can now, I'm free to change the name of that if I want to. I can hit tab to go out and see the declaration. There it is. Hit escape to get back where I was. So declare initialize property works from any parameter to any method. Okay, so let's see. We've done declare initialize property, declare setter. I haven't shown you that yet. Let's go back into this. We'll remove our setter. Oops. That. Go back out and look at the references to customer name. We'll do tap index reference. And so now we see this is no longer working. CodeRush highlighting that for us. We can choose to declare setter in there, and there setter is now available. What else? We also have, all right, so let's bring this up again. So here we go. Property can be auto-implemented, and we've got an unused member piece showing right up here for the setter. There you go, unused setter, and I can choose remove setter on it. Like that. Okay, so I wanted to show that, and the last one I wanted to show, which is one you probably never encounter, but I saw it, what the heck, we'll do it. And then if you have a property with type void, let's see, we can fix it from down here, can we? We can. It's too bad. But you can't, we should have a code issue that shows up here that says property cannot be of type void. And I was hoping that convert to function was going to be available here, but it's not. So that might be something to consider adding to, you know, this is kind of a note to developers, consider adding this, although it's a rare occurrence, so it may not be that useful. But at any rate, we have a code issue for that if it's if the property is of type void. Okay, now let's get into the fun stuff, the templates, and we'll go through these and see what we can get here. So we'll create a new class for this, so we can work in something new here. I'm going to call this class boat. I don't know why I just do. I'm totally going off of, you know, as you can tell.
Feeling nautical.
I'm feeling nautical for today. So for adding properties here, I'm going to put a comment out here. I'm going to show you the first set of templates for using properties, and so these are my notes right here to show you the basics right here. So I can use A for auto-implement properties, B for P for read-write properties, R for read-only, and W for write-only props.
Mark,
these are
can
all.
you turn the keyboard add-in? It's disabled in this version
sure.
of Studio.
Sure, it disables whenever I restart. So
and
thanks.
also, I don't know if you mentioned it yourself specifically. I should note that whilst Mark's going through these templates, it can be very useful to look at the CodeRush training window on the left, because it gives context-sensitive help about what you can do from any given point based on where the carrot actually is.
Exactly. So and thank you, Rory, by the way. I love how Rory always kind of brings it, you know, sometimes I jump ahead like 3 or 4 steps, and Rory's like, here's how Mark just jumped, you know.
I'm just trying to derail you.
You know, it's awesome what you're doing. I appreciate it. So let's experiment with these. So A for auto-implemented properties. The boat needs a speed, so let's make it auto-implemented. So we type in A, and if we look over on the left, the CodeRush training window is here, and we can scroll down and take a look at the different kinds of types that we can follow this up with. So, for example, if we wanted the speed to be of type float, we could type in AF and spacebar. And that gives us our float property. We'll type in speed here. So that was the letter A to get that. Excuse me. We want a read-write property on this with backing store. We can use the letter P. And this might be the name of the craft. So we'll type in S for string, like that. And you can see over here on the left, because we've got a couple of these things going here, let me bring this down to like one line for the keys. And then we can see a little bit more of what's going on here. So here we see PS is going to give me a string like that. Okay? And so we'll call this the name of the boat. All right, so that's the letter P. It's given me a read-write property with backing store. The letter R can give me a read-only property. So if I want another property, like its weight, for example, so I'll type in R for read-only property. I'll type in D for decimal. Over here on the left, you see what some of the choices are for us here, and I can use D for double or DE for decimal. So type in DE like that, spacebar. Now, have a read-only property. This is the weight, like that. Okay. Speaking of which, if I want to initialize that field, I can use just the CC template to create a new constructor, and it'll ask me what pieces I want to initialize inside there, so I can create one that just initializes the weight like that. Okay. Now I've got the weight initialized, and now my read-only property makes sense. I can also, in rare cases, if I want a write-only property, I can use the letter W for write-only property. And the first one that comes to mind is like a Boolean property. Set is stopped by Coast Guard. Like that, something along those lines. We can then set that value. Ultimately, I think I would probably want to change that, but I can do, I like to come in here and I'm going to say property to methods like that. So I change that out to just a simple method that says set is stopped by Coast Guard, or maybe even something you do a rename on that, or just stopped by Coast Guard. Something along those lines. So I'll undo that so you can see the property. So there's a write-only property. Oops, there you go. There it is right there. And so those are the basics there. So you have A for auto-implemented properties, P for read-write properties, and R for read-only properties, and W for write-only properties. And these are all followed up by a mnemonic shortcut for the type you want to deal with. Now, if your type is not there yet, you can right-click that type and choose Use Type in Templates and give it a mnemonic like maybe BT for boat, for example. And now if we want to add a new property of type boat, like an auto-implemented property of type boat, we type in A followed by that mnemonic, and now we get the auto-implemented property there, and we can say whatever it is, companion craft, whatever that was going to be. Okay, so there's our boat. I apparently am feeling nautical. In addition, if you don't use the full-on templates, there are another subset of templates that you can use to get the pieces. For example, if I remove this, and I say I just type this in by hand, I can come down here, I can type in B for block, and then G for getter, and S for setter, and then hit the space bar, and I can get those pieces. Okay, and then specify what I want it to return, hit escape, come down here, assign the value, that sort of thing, like that. Fill it out by hand if I want to. So not as useful if you're already, I use these infrequently because I'm using the main templates, but sometimes you may say, you know what, I don't want to learn those main templates, I just want to type some stuff in and then get the next piece. Also, I can type in B followed by S to get a setter only, like that, or I can type in B followed by G to get a getter only. Okay. Also, if I'm inside here, for example, so let's say I'm doing this in pieces. Say I know as a new CodeRush user that the letter B gives me braces. Now that I'm here, I can just type the letter G to get my getter. And there's my getter. Or I can type in the letter S for set and get those. So those templates are also here. So BGS is the mnemonic you want to remember for filling in these pieces if you don't remember the bigger ones for giving you the big pieces, the big declarations. Okay. Oh, this one is interesting. So create on demand. So let's say that inside of boat we have something else called a sail. Oops, there's my boat right there. Let's move it to its own file. So we've got. Okay, so we've got boat in its own file, and let's create inside of there a reference to a doc. So that doesn't exist yet. Like this. And let's go declare this. We'll pretend it takes a lot of effort to create it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy doc to the clipboard. And I'm going to come down in here and I'm going to type in COD, which stands for, it's a mnemonic that stands for Create on Demand. And you can see the preview to the left. And we get the space bar, and it builds this for us. So it allows us to specify the name of the property. It's called doc, and it's of type doc, and called doc in this case. And if doc is null, we're creating a new one, and then we return it. So you see this kind of code a lot, right? This create on demand code, and now it's easy to get it. You just copy that piece you want to create onto the clipboard, type in COD, create on demand, and you get this code right here. By the way, if you want to change any of this, it's all inside of the templates, and whenever you expand a template and you go into the options dialog, you will see, and you get onto that templates page, you will see that template you just expanded selected, provided that the language matches down here what language you're working in. So there's the COD template right there. And so if you want to make a change here to the template, it's easy. You just come in and say, for example, if you wanted to remove that piece from it, you just take that out like that, click OK. Come back in here and let's get rid of those two. Let's see, is doc still on the clipboard? It is. So type in COD, spacebar, and now we get this. Okay, so nice. Let's show some how these templates expand under different situations. So we've seen these four right here, right? Auto-implemented, read-write, read-only, and write-only. But they're intelligent. Let me move this quickly over to another file, come back over here to boat. And by the way, whenever I say this almost every time, and I haven't said it yet here, and I'll say it this one time, whenever I do a refactoring or code provider that takes me away from where I start, I can hit escape to get back. Okay, so let's start changing things up. Let's make this an abstract class, okay? And let's say we want to create a new property. So we use the P for property and I for integer, like that. And, oh wait, that's not going to work. That's not working as expected. PI and then dash afterwards. It's going to do what I want. There it is, right there. So we've got an abstract class. We want an abstract property. We can type in a dash after it. So PB, property type Boolean, put a dash, and then you'll get an abstract version of that. Okay. If I'm inside of an interface, call this iBoat, and we type in the same letters, right? A for auto-implemented property, I for integer. This time we don't need a dash in there because we're not. It doesn't make sense to do an abstract one here. But we get a different expansion. The expansion is different because we're in an interface, right? Over here, if I type in AI, I'm going to get this. Over here, if I type in AI, I get that. Okay, it's slightly different. But let's look at the difference if I use P. If I type in PB over here, I'm going to get that with backing store. There's the backing store right there. We'll say on dry dock, that. And over here, if we type in PB, what? Okay, that's totally unexpected. Why is that happening? Note to devs at, what are we in here, 51 minutes in? I'm typing in PB inside my interface. There we go, now I get it. That might have been a background parser issue. Sometimes if I make changes really quickly and come back in, you'll see that. So notice that when I waited a moment and then tried it again, it worked. So it could be a background parser issue right there. But still, I want to have the devs look at that just to see what's going on, see if they can duplicate that with the timing and the changes I made. Okay, so PB by itself up here, oops, PB by itself will give me that, something different from before. So we'll type in on dry dock. There. Okay, so that they expand differently, whether they're in an interface, in an abstract class. If I want to have abstract pieces, I just follow it with that dash at the end. The other thing I can do too is, let's say I want to have an array of something, like for example an array of integers, a property of a type of integer that's an array of integers. I can follow that with an open bracket and hit the space bar, and then I have an array of properties of integers. Okay, depth history, something along those lines. Okay, so that is those are some of the ways that you can change the template expansion. One other thing, let's implement I notify property changed. And let's see if we can get what we need out of this. Oops, I don't want to navigate. Let's use system.component model. So now boat implements I notify property changed. Let's create another property of type Boolean, just like the one we have below. Are we doing this again? Oh, I know why. We have a syntax error. Sorry, my bad. Okay, now try it. Come on, catch up with me. Yeah, I had to wait for it to catch up. I made that change and it just had to catch up. Okay, so now notice what's happening now. Well, actually, let's go back and delete this a second. I want to implement this because I have not implemented this. So let's implement that. And Visual Studio gives me an event called property change now. All right, let's go back up and we'll create that public Boolean property. And we'll call it in water, so it'll be the opposite of on dry dock. And notice what it gives us. So before, when we typed in PB, we just had a getter and a setter, right? But now that my class implements I notify property changed, when we type in PB to get a property, it gives us additional code. If the value is the same, return. So we've already got a setter guard clause added automatically, and it calls our event property changed, passing ourselves and our new property change event args to it. Okay, so that is good. I call that good. Okay, so all right, what else do we have to do? Are we in here? All right, yeah, so we've seen smarter expansion with regards to being inside an interface, it being inside a class that implements I notify property changed. We've also seen, if we're in an abstract class, how to declare abstract properties, and we've also seen how to create array properties. Next, let's talk about attributes. There's one attribute that is sometimes very useful for properties. Sometimes when you're working with properties, you're actually creating controls that are going to be on the design surface inside Visual Studio. And sometimes you want to create a property that's hidden that's maybe publicly available but hidden nonetheless. So if you type in open bracket followed by an H, and in VB the attributes are done with the angle brackets, right, Rory? So you should be able to.
That's right. Yeah.
You should
so that'll all work fine.
You should be able to type in angle bracket B as if you're in VB. And so what you'll get is these two attributes will come in here for you. Browsable false, so it will not show up inside of the properties grid, and also with regards to designer serialization, it'll be hidden as well. So sometimes this is useful if you want to essentially create a property that is hidden and cannot be seen in the properties grid. I'm just realizing I may have done this. Oh yeah, that's correct. I was going to say I may have described these incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure I got those both accurately. Okay, so that's the attribute which is invoked by angle bracket H. By the way, when you do this, when you hit an angle bracket, CodeRush adds the closing angle bracket for us. That's okay. The template will remove that if you type in H and then the spacebar right immediately afterwards. So don't be thrown off if you see that closing angle bracket. CodeRush will get rid of that. Okay, a couple other modifications here. If I want to have no backing field, for example, in my P template, so I might say PI, property of type integer, but I don't want any backing store on it, I can simply follow it up by a comma. And so here's the way the comma works. We've talked about this before, but the convention for the comma, if it's at the very end of the template like this, is it'll get a shorter version of the template. So PI by itself will get you this, a bigger version with my property change call and everything along those lines in there. But PI comma will get me a shorter version of it, which is simply without the backing store, right? In this case, there's no backing store with it. Okay? So comma is something I can do to follow up that with. And there are we also have some specialized property types here, and I'm not going to demonstrate them. We've talked about them, I think, before, at least one of them we've talked about, and the other we have not yet talked about. But one of them is we have, let's see, XP followed by type for an XPO property. So when you see type in question marks, that means it's a type mnemonic, like the letter I, letter B, I for integer, B for Boolean, that sort of thing. So XP type is going to get me an XPO property, and then XR will give me, followed by the same thing, will give me an XPO read-only property. This will be read-write. Okay, so we've seen these before. When Gary helped me with the XPO, using CodeRush with XPO webinar, we talked about those two. There's one other and that we have not talked about, and I'm not going to demonstrate it here. It's called S-type, and it's for view state properties. And let's look at this actually so we can see what the context is on this, because I won't be able to demonstrate it right here. I need to be in a particular class that satisfies this. So let's have it like SI. Let's find next. We're looking until it finds S-type. There it is right there. So if inherits from system.web.ui.control. So that's the context. If we inherit from that, okay, in other words, we're doing web development, and then we can get the view state property and expand this out. And let me just drill into this. I'll right-click here, jump to alias, property view state. You can get a sense of what this code is going to look like. It's going to generate. Whoops, I had that already. Okay, so it looks like this. So we're going to basically get index view state by the property name, and if it's not null, then we're going to return that. Otherwise, and it's going to be typecast to the appropriate type. And then otherwise, we're going to, we called it here to get the return val, whatever this, let's take a look at what getRetVal. Oh, that's the value that's set prior to this. That is going to be equal to what the initial value is. Let's go look at that. Oh, okay, interesting. So initial value has got a couple different options here. So if it's nullable, if the variable is nullable, the initial value will be null. If it's of the same type, if it's a system string, we'll go out to initial value from string, and otherwise we'll just choose a simple initial value. So we can kind of jump through and drill through these and get some values that have some sort of meaning here. So anyway, if we can't find it, then we simply return that default value, whatever that's going to be, like that we set up here. So if you're still creating and working with view state properties, the S templates are helpful for you. So just type them in. You just have to be in the right place there to be able to show them. All right, next, Wpf properties. And I think we have a Wpf seminar coming up. I'm going to, instead of going into them now, I'm going to list them out here. And so if you want to explore these, you can. And you can see what they are here. So we'll list these out in a separate comment. So these are the Wpf templates that deal with properties. Okay, and so like I said, we won't show them now, but DP is for a dependency property. Again, the comment at the end means a shorter version. So this will have your course value handler, and so you'll be able to add code to when the value is about to change or when the value is about to be retrieved. And then also, this is for creating an attached property, dependency property. So DPA is an attached dependency property, and there's both long and short versions of that. And then you have this for setting up your default style key property call, which is this will work inside of a method. So those WPF templates are there for you to take a look at. And then the last pieces that I wanted to talk about are dealing with setting values, common property values, and retrieving those values as well. So to get to that point, I think I need to go in and I wonder if we can add a form to this, since it's simply a console app. Yeah, it looks like we can. Let's add a Windows form to this. Okay, so we've got form inside of form. We've got this checkbox 1 that we just took. That we just placed on it. I cut it to the clipboard, so it's on the clipboard. So now that it's on the clipboard, we saw the previews of these before. So if I want to set, for example, the check state on this, I can type in SC, and it will paste what's on the clipboard and add .checked equals, and now I can specify a variable name or something like that, like my var, something along those lines. Okay. If I want to set this check to true, I can type in SCT for set check to true. If I want to set check to false, I can type in SCF for set check to false. So if I've got something on the clipboard I want to manipulate its properties, common properties, I can use these. I can also type in SE for set enabled, or I can type in SET for set enabled to true. Oops, SET, let's get rid of IntelliSense. No? All right, type in SEF. Not working either. I think we got this. Oh, I know why, because that's, I need this on the clipboard. Try again. SET. There we go. SEF. Right there. So set it enabled to true, set it enabled to false. And
so just to clarify, Mark, that didn't work there for a second there because the thing on the clipboard didn't evaluate to a valid identifier, which could indeed have enabled set to true or false.
Right. Right. So if I copy this to the clipboard and I type in SET, nothing happens, right? That's what the problem was, is I changed the clipboard contents. Okay. So set enabled to true, set enabled to false. Okay. So we have these S templates, right? And let me just put down what I have here on these. I'm going to copy these down. We showed this, I think, last time too, but this is a good thing to know. Right. I've listed some common properties here, and the appropriate set templates with these. The set templates also work in places where an expression is expected. So, for example, if I type in like SET for set, whoops, there we go. I got to get the right thing on the clipboard. Checkbox. Well, let's work with visible because we've just got it right here. So visible. Let's say I type in SVT for set visible to true, like that, for example. Oh, you know what? I want to work with text instead. I'm going to work with text. So we'll say, does this have a text property? Yes, it does. So if I want to say set text, I can type in STX like this. And actually, let me just keep it down on the screen so you can see it. So STX gives me that. Let's come down here and say if and type in STX. And now notice STX gives me this instead if I'm inside parens. If I'm in a place where an expression is expected.
So it changes between an assignment and an evaluation, effectively.
Right, and we said this last time, I think, when we were talking about this, but anything starting with letter S is essentially setting values. That's where the mnemonic S comes from. And for anybody who's like is thinking, wait a second, didn't you just tell me that view state templates start with an S? Yes, they do, but those templates are for creating properties, and they don't work inside of properties. It doesn't make sense to declare a property inside of a method. Right? The templates all have context, so if you had a type that had an abbreviation of TX, and you typed in STX and you were doing view state, out here you'd get a view state property here. So STX could give you a view state property here. Right? If you had TX, if TX was a mnemonic.
And you're in a type that inherits from web.ui to control.
And you inherit, right, etc. Right? So yes, it could. So if you were thinking, oh, geez, you know, this feels like maybe confusing, don't think that, because it's not. It's actually simple. What you do is you say what you think, what you want, right? I want to set text equal to something, and then you just type that in STX, right? Oh, let me copy it to the clipboard, and then so it'll work. STX, like that. Okay. So and then one of the things we did is we realized, look, you basically have this on one side, this on the other. Okay. Let's, in a place where an expression is called for, let's just take out the semicolon at the end and give you the double equals and not make you remember a different mnemonic. So that's what's going on here. That's why this STX also expands inside here, even though I'm not actually setting a value. I'm instead evaluating a value. So I think this works. I think it's more effective than learning a new letter. But of course, you can always go in and modify the templates yourself. So let's see. Let's go back up here. Anything else here is interesting. You can imagine all these other ones working, like SLT, STP for setting left, setting top, dealing with what else is interesting in here. The size, border style, back color if you're doing WPF development. Okay, now the other corollary to this, and I don't know if you know these yet, Rory. If you don't, this is going to be awesome for you. And these are the identity templates. And let me give you a comment for those. These are what we call the identity templates, and they also work with something on the clipboard. And and most of these work with properties. Okay, so here are common properties here. So, for example, let's copy checkbox 1 on the clipboard again. And let's say if, and let's say we wanted to reference that check property of it, we can just type in IC. We can say if checkbox 1.checked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you see, you're acting like you have not seen. You've already seen these before. I mean,
I've seen some of these before. Yeah.
Okay. So they're here. All right. So notice that we have also new ones in addition to left, top, right, and height. I'm sorry, left, top, width, and height. We also have bottom and right. Traditionally, you can't set these values, right? So it doesn't make sense to put those in here. Now, one more note I'm going to ask for you for the devs, Rory.
Yep.
Note to devs. I was looking through these templates, and I realized that we can make use of dynamic lists and create dynamic lists of properties with common values, and really expand this out instead of having these prefab done. You know, right now, if you go and look at these templates, they all say they're all listed explicitly, and IC expands explicitly out to paste dot checked. But what I want to do is I want to change this, and I want to make these smarter. I want to make create dynamic lists of properties that can be read and write. And so, for example, left, top, width, and height will appear inside of those. And so automatically, I'll just type in I and then the mnemonic for that piece, like LT for left,
sure.
and then span them out. If we had more time, if it wasn't like lunchtime and Amanda was over there waiting, to go eat lunch, I would actually do this now, and we'd go in and dive in and do this. But I want to create dynamic lists for the different property types. So we'd have a dynamic list for maybe Booleans. So if we had the Boolean ones, we'd have things like these that end in, it would go visible, S, and then mnemonic, right, and then the letter F and the letter T, F for false, T for true. So the Booleans would all be grouped together. We might also have integers grouped together, so we could follow it with the letter, 0 or something along those lines.
And that would allow you to take any other property or any other term that you used regularly that you knew was a Boolean and add that to the list and have all of these different things support it.
Exactly. Bingo. So it'll be awesome. So that's a note to devs, and we'll probably do that for 11.1, I think. That is what I think we'll do. So, of course, nothing stops you, the listener, from doing that right now if you have 10.2 and you don't want to wait. There should be enough clues. You've seen enough if you watch this series. You should know by now how to create your own dynamic lists and how to implement this, how to create your own templates. The clues are certainly there, and I'm almost anticipating tech support questions now asking how to do this.
Well, if people want to give me a mail, roryb@devexpress.com, or find me on Twitter, Rory Becker, by all means ask me how it's done, and I'll give you as many tips as you need.
And I will say this to the listeners. We are on a mandate by the president of our company that goes like this. If anyone asks a question, you stay and keep doing the webinar until the question is answered. So if anybody asks this question right now, we are bound, all of us are bound by this mandate to stay and answer it. So we can actually do it. But I just need the question asked right now. And then it won't be me, taking out Amanda's lunch. It'll be you, the listener. So.
The customer is always right.
Amanda's like, have you eaten lunch yet, Amanda? How are you doing over there?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
She can make it. Do we have?
We do have some questions though. They're not.
Well, this is all I've got. Let's go to the questions, and we'll see if anybody wants to go on the record as taking you away from your lunch, Amanda.
Okay, so from Jose, Mark, what about the implementation of the XPO singleton class? It's something that you talked about when you did a webinar with Gary about XAF, XPO, and refactor.
You know, I did not do that. You know, let's do that. Since you asked the question, I'm contractually bound to do that. I want to do that like now. I was going to do a webinar with Gary. Let me see if it's online. It's a little late over there, but if he's online, I'll actually try to bring him in, and we'll talk about this. It looks like he's not. He may also be busy at a conference or something like that. That guy is like all over the place. So I do not see Gary on. I do not have explicit knowledge about XPO, but I think the person asking this question sent me a link to an example of that singleton class. If I can get that link one more time, I can show how to create a template for that, and we can certainly answer that. But we would have Jeff divide this up into 2 different webinars so we can answer that question in a separate standalone kind of thing, I think. And what else? Do we have any other questions, Amanda?
Yes, it was earlier in the webinar, like at 12:30. Is there a way to implement an interface and implement all the properties with CodeRush?
No, not yet. That's essentially what we were asking the devs to write. We want the devs to add that as a feature to do so that CodeRush builds it for you instead of Visual Studio.
I thought you addressed that. Let's see.
Is that it? Is that it for questions?
Yeah, that's it for questions thus far.
All right. So who's the person who asked the question about the? Oh, I'm seeing why I can't see it. It's all like totally. I've got this tiny window. I'm just trying to find the name of the person who was asking about the singleton.
Jose.
Okay, Jose. Yeah, I say let's do it for you. Do you have a link for me on that?
He's sending it.
Oh, he says he'll send the link in one moment. So yeah, if you can paste that link out here for me, I'll show you how to build that. Now that will be completely without any real XPO knowledge. I am just not an XPO expert at all, and we'll do that. And you know what? While we're waiting for that link, why don't we answer this other thing and show how to do this with the dynamic lists? Why don't we do that? Okay. So we're going to DevExpress options. This is the how-to on the first part. This is what our devs are going to do, only we'll do it a little more thoroughly than this. I'll just do a quick couple examples. So we go to core, dynamic lists, and we're going to go switch over to neutral because this is going to work with any language. It's not a language specific. I'm going to say
if this
new.
page doesn't show up for you, it's probably because it's an advanced page. You change the drop down in the bottom left. You'll be able to select advanced, and this page will appear for you. Otherwise, it may not be visible.
Rory, you are awesome. This is why you are here. All these important things. So we're going to create a new dynamic list. I'm going to call this like bool or maybe properties, Boolean properties. I don't know. Properties dash Boolean, like that.
That's good.
And the variable I'm going to call this prop name. Is what I'm going to call it. I'm going to keep this the same with all of them. I think this will be fine. Comment holds a list of common Boolean properties. Okay? And I'm going to say OK. Does not hold .NET types, just property names. Boolean property names. Like that.
Mark, is there likely to be a collision later on when you create a list of integer names? The prop name would collide there?
Yes.
Are you expecting to make a single list?
No, I'm expecting to make multiple lists, and yes, there could be collision, but we can handle that with context. One of the things we can do is we can show the folder context, and everything in here is extensible, and so one of the things we have under here is code, and I thought we had clipboard right underneath there. Analysis, is clipboard inside of it?
Clipboard is the second item down, right at the top.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, I just missed it. So clipboard.has, what we need is something we want to say has an element with a property of type Boolean. We want to add a new context here, right? So we want to say, so it has it, and we want to pass in the actual, mnemonic value here is what we want to do. So we want to make a sophisticated context is what we'll probably do. So for right now,
Boolean not suitable?
No, it's not because it's remember it's checkbox 1 dot checked, right? So the clipboard has checkbox 1 on it. So what we want to do is, does it have a Boolean property? Sure. I'm sorry, does the clipboard have, essentially the question is, does the clipboard have a reference to a type that has a property of type Boolean that matches the piece we're passing in,
yes.
Right? And so that's essentially what the context is. And actually, I'm realizing we actually have to do this in two different places to reduce the collision. One's here, and once also in the templates, because there's two different levels of collision reduction. The first one is, do we simply have a property that has a Boolean, in which case, yes, this whole list will be useful. Do we have a reference to an identifier that has a property type Boolean? Any property type Boolean, then if yes, then we can specify that context here. But to be honest, Rory, I think that, and the second one is in the actual expansion, in the template itself, we'll ask, do you have a Boolean property of type checked? I'm sorry, named checked, right? That's where we'll ask that question later. But the other thing is that what I really think we'll do is we may group together by common platform. So for example, we might have a bunch of common properties for Wpf development, for example, Silverlight development. I'm anticipating those being in common. So I think we're going to spend some development effort on this to really flesh this out. For now, I'm just going to, to answer your question, Rory, about, are we going to have collision? Yes, we'll have collision for now if we do it the simple way. But I'm going to type in C here, and I'm going to type in checked here. Okay, so that is a property. I'm going to type in V for visible, and come down here, type in visible, and add that as well. And I want to do one more that is not in my regular list of the list that I gave you, and I need to think of a common one here. So we have also E for enabled. Let's do that as well. Enabled, and I'm gonna do one more. I'm gonna just call it M for magic, and we'll pretend there's a magic property that's common, just so that I can prove that this is actually working. Okay, because we have some other templates that are going to get in the way. So I've done that. Those are my Boolean properties. Let's apply that. And now let's come back over into the C# page. Oh, also, Rory, note to devs, for goodness sakes, give me the button that says jump to neutral, go to neutral if I'm not on here, and the other button is if I am in neutral, give me the button that says back to C#. So
switch between neutral and my current document type.
Right, exactly. Go to document type. If it's already on the matching, then give me one that says go to neutral. If we don't, and then that way I can jump through here much faster. Okay. Templates, we're in C# on the templates. So let's go in and look at the ones we already had here. So we had like set check to true. Here's the template. Okay, I'm going to copy this to the clipboard, and I'm going to delete this template. So it's gone. Yes. I'm going to delete set check to false as well, and I'm going to delete SC set checked. Okay. Also, for the other side of the equation, IC, I'm going to get rid of the IC reference. Okay. Then I'm going to come down. I'm actually showing the devs how to do their work here. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Let's do a new category. We're going to call this. Right now, it's adding it inside of the identity folder. I'll move it out to the root in a second. But we're going to call this our common props, maybe like that. Common props. Okay. And it's here. Let's right-click it and say move to root. And where is it? Where did it put it? There it is right there. Let's add a new template. So we're going to type in set, and we want to say, what did I call it? Prop name?
I think so,
I wish I remembered that. Set prop name. So we'll do a simple one there. And the expansion is going to look like this. So we'll paste in. But now instead of having the word checked here, we want that mnemonic. So we're going to come in here and we're going to use, we're going to right-click and we're going to say insert string provider, type in get, and then we're going to pass in prop name to that. And we want to put the caret right here for this one. So that's just a simple set. We're going to create a duplicate of this. This time we're going to call it set it to true, prop name to true. This is one of the really beautiful things of this architecture, right? We are combining things together with the dynamic lists and the name of the template in really sophisticated ways, right? And so we'll change this to true, and then we'll duplicate this, and we duplicate it, we'll change that to false, and then we'll add one more for the, so this is false. Oh, I want to get some context that's useful down in here.
So for those that have not seen this before, basically what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to pass a named variable, in this case prop name, to the three templates that we've got there. The slight difference between normal parameters that you might envisage and what we're doing here is that the keystrokes that you hit to name your value when you're passing it in are expanded themselves. So E is becoming enabled, V visible, as we dictated in the list that you saw previously.
Yeah, Roy, I just want to say your presence is so valuable. Okay, so here we have just I followed by the prop name. That identifier is going to give me a paste dot the prop name, and then that's probably it, just like that. We can double check that by looking at ICN to get me access to count. Yeah, it doesn't have a semicolon at the end of it. Oh, notice here, auto line terminator is selected on that. So let's do the same thing for ours. For our iProp name, we'll specify auto line terminator. Let's also look under like SLT for set left, because that was one of the ones that was in there that was common. It also has auto double equals and auto line terminator. So let's also go back to that, to these, and set those options as well. So it'll switch from an equals to a double equals when we're standing inside a C#, and we need we're in an expression. Auto line terminator will remove this if it exists and we don't need it. So we'll select both of those and select both of those. So what's cool now is instead of having all of those templates before, we now just have 4 templates, right? These are for the bool props right here. In fact, we might want to change this. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm thinking I want to change prop name to bool prop is what I want to do for these pieces right here to make that work, to give that a unique name. So let's not do it yet, though, because just for the interest of time, let's just test this out and see if it works. So we'll copy checkbox 1 on the clipboard. Well, there's probably other contexts that we needed to check for. But anyway, let's go ahead and do this. Set check to false should expand and work. Okay, and it does, even though we deleted that as SCF, right? Set magic to true should work. Okay, set magic to false should work. Okay. Cool. Is that cool? So that's kind of what you could do now. The only thing I would do is let's look at that the context carefully of the other set templates and copy it over. So let's go back in and look at like SLT. Look at its context. Has identifier and encode code blocks. So it's actually one of the options here is if the clipboard has an identifier. See it there and there. Clipboard has identifier. So let's right-click this. Whoops. Right-click this. Choose copy context. And come back over to the other one. Now all we have to do is type in like SCT, for example, and look at this. This is the other thing that's really awesome about this template editor is I typed in one of the mnemonics from the list, and it figured out that it was one of the mnemonics from the list and found the first one that matched that, right? So now what I can do is I can now right-click on this, and I can say paste context in. So has identifier and in the code block. Has identifier and in the code block. Okay? So that's pretty cool. The only thing I would do now is I would change prop name to bool prop here in all of these places. I guess I'm going to do it because I said I was going to do it. Did we get that link yet for the other piece?
There is a link there in the questions. I don't know if you can see that directly.
I also chatted it to you, Mark, so it's easier for you to see.
Beautiful, beautiful, Amanda. All right, so we'll go to that in just one second. I just want to change these to bool prop across the board, so it makes a little more sense because with bool prop we definitely want to be able to, we want to be able to only have bool prop work on these two. The other thing is I have to change it here for all of these as well. So that was, I know, you remember at the beginning I wasn't sure whether I was going to do bool prop or prop name on that. I was like not thinking ahead enough, I think. I didn't quite get it. I thought I would be able to combine them all. All right, so there's that one. We click apply. Let's go back up to where we were before, dynamic lists. See that button we're here, I can just click on it, boom, and we're over, switch over to neutral, and properties Boolean, and let's edit and change it to bool prop. And now that should work. All right, I'm going to just do a quick test on those changes right there. What's cool is now if we want to add common bool properties, we just add it to that piece right there, right, that list we were just on.
That's right.
That's what's awesome, right? Say we have a property we use and work with all the time, and let's say it is A for awesome, right? We can now come in here and type in, awesome, like that, add that property, and now we have our setters and our identifiers templates, identity templates that work with it now. So we have the checkbox 1 on the clipboard. We can type in SAT for set awesome to true, for example, or SAF set awesome to false, but we would never do that. Okay?
That's great.
That's cool. And let's double check it everywhere, right? We didn't actually see what those options are. But if I come in here and I type in SMT, we'll get if magic is equal to true, for example.
Very nice.
Or if we might want to say if magic, right? If IA should give us this, right? If IC should give you that. So cool. That's really cool stuff.
What we've done is seriously reduced the amount of effort needed to add a new, in this case, Boolean, a recognized Boolean to the sort of sequence of templates that would work with it. Before, you'd have needed to add one template for each of these different types of things. Now you just add the name of the new bool in one place, and all of the existing templates pick it up from there.
So devs, that's what we're going to do for 11.1. This is kind of odd. I've both spec'd out and implemented a feature inside of a webinar before the feature's actually released. Little bit odd. Okay, so now we've got, let me go find that link that Amanda sent me. Wait, I'm not seeing.
I chatted it to you in the chat box.
Are you using our new chat stuff or the old chat? I need it in the old chat.
I'm using the GoToWebinar chat.
Oh,
no?
in that chat box. Oh, I see. Oh, got it. Got it. Okay. All right, I'm clicking that link. And let's go take a look at that now. Okay, how to implement a singleton class. Here's the source code. So the question is, you know, how do we get this and get this to be smart? So, Jose, you're still with us, I take it, because this is your question. What we need to do is find out the pieces that are changing in here. So, Jose, I want you to look at this link and tell me the pieces that are changing. It looks like this is something we're going to need to change, and that's something we'll need to change. And anything else, I need you to tell me. If there's anything else besides those two, tell me what they are. So we're going to go select these, copy these to the clipboard, and we'll show you how to create a template for some code that you need to do over and over and over again. So let's see, where are we here? Virtual PC. Okay, so DevExpress options. We'll create a new template. Let's go switch back over to C# and onto the editor templates page.
Jose's definitely still with us, Mark. He says the only thing in addition to what you've said already is you need to change the type of Getinstance to be the same as the class. So
Got it.
We'll get to that.
Okay, so I've moved to my XPO templates. I'm now adding a new one. This should be like a note the time again on this, Rory. And I just realized also that if we might edit out some portions of this, that time shift is going to need to be, Jeff's going to have to do some math to get the devs, or maybe we'll just get the devs of the original version of this. How if we do that? So note the time on this, but I want Gary in on this too, and as well. But here's, because this also feels like an 11.1 feature that we should do. So I'm going to say new template, right? XPO is selected. I'm going to say new template. I'm going to type in XS, okay? So we have a new template. By the way, if you're wondering about collision, right, if you're thinking, wait, there's loads of opportunity for collision here. We could have mnemonics that show up that may collide. First of all, we take a lot of care to make sure that that collision is not unlikely to happen or just not going to happen. That's one of the things that's going on. But the other thing is that if collision occurs and you happen to have an explicitly named template, for example, one of the things I know that's sitting in the back of my head is we have a template for creating exceptions. And the template, I'm pretty sure, is the letter X followed by the type of the exception that you want to have as the property for this custom exception, if you want to have a custom property type. So this is a potential collision with it. However, if you have an explicitly named template like I do, and not one that uses the mnemonics with the question marks in it, this will always take priority. So don't worry about collision. If you have collision, and if you're worried about it when you're creating a new template, don't worry. Yours will always take priority over a dynamic template if you have one that happens to match it. Okay, so XS. I'm going to now paste this in. And looks like my splitter didn't follow my mouse all the way down. Right, there we go. And so we've pasted this in. Let's look at what did you say needed to change, Jose, or what did Jose need to change?
There's a couple of things. There was the type of find object there, and also one for Getinstance.
So the type of find object is of type singleton.
Yeah. Right.
And so is this going to change? Is the class name going to change? Is that what this thing is, Jose?
So.
Okay. Let's assume that that's the case. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so we need to link these three up. So what we're going to do here is let's copy singleton to the clipboard. Copy it. I'm going to replace this with a text command called link. And then I'm going to pass in parens to link that name, that text. And then everywhere I want that to change, I'm going to now replace it with that text. Okay? So So that's step one in converting this code over. So singleton here, and it looks like we've got it in many places in here. Now I see the pane. Okay. And I don't think we have singleton showing up anymore.
There was one
okay.
in a string back in that last place you were editing, my singleton.
Did I miss something up here?
Just off the bottom of the screen there. Fraction.
Oh, there. I think this is okay. We can put this in here, but yeah, this is going to be a field we're going to jump to as well anyway, though.
Sure.
All right, so the first thing we want people to change is the name of this, I believe. So what I want to do is I want to select it. So I'm going to put a block anchor on one side of it. That means like drag the mouse, right, from here to the caret, which we're going to put on the other side of it, okay? So that's going to select this whole piece. Let's just click OK on this for now. We'll do this in steps, and we'll see what that change has done. Okay, so we need to be in a good place to expand this, and we have not added any context, so we'll need to do that too. So we'll just add an XS here, and we'll expand this out, and now you see the link up of what's happening here. A lot of things are not understood yet because I'm not actually in an XPO project. But now we can type in, my watcher, whatever this is going to be, and like that, and now it changes everywhere. Okay? Happy with that so far. Not bad. We hit enter and we're done. We still want to get down here though and make changes here and here. Okay? So let's go back in and make some modifications to that. Because we have multiple entry points in here, right? We have the name, the description, and the class type. We want to use something called fields. And so for example here, if we want to put a field here for empty, let me just cut that to the clipboard. I'll come in here, I'll use the command field, and I'll paste that in. So now we've just added a field, okay? But we also need the other entry points to also be fields. However, one of the rules about templates is that you cannot pass a text command as a parameter into another text command. And the reason why is because a text command is something that works on things, and it doesn't return a result. There's no string result. It actually goes out and modifies code. Contrast that with a string provider, which actually provides a string and gets it back, which you can pass as a parameter. Okay? That's why when we right-click here, we have two menus, one for string providers, like get, which we can pass into text commands or to other string providers, and another menu for inserting text commands. Okay, so we want to create a field, but a field is a text command. Here's the syntax for the text command. It's just got these double angle brackets on either side and the name of it. Okay, same thing here. By the way, for the we saw getter before, but if we come in here and we say insert string provider get, the syntax here is to use a question mark in front of it. Okay, that's different syntax. So because we don't have a question mark in front of it, we cannot pass in a link, which we have here, to a field. So all of that explanation simply to explain that we have, oops, here, we can do it right here, text command called field end for that purpose, and field begin. Field start, rather. Okay? So we can grab field start and field end, and that'll make that now a field. That's the way to get around that problem. We also want to do this at the very beginning here for this first link. We want field start, and we want field end at the end of that. I'm just going to type that in instead of grabbing it from the list. And now let's click OK. So what have we done? We've selected the first one, so it should be selected after expansion. We've also made it a field, so when we hit enter, we'll go to the next entry points. Click OK. And now let's select this. And now let's expand it again. We'll say XS for a singleton XPO template. Now notice, it is selected with an orange box around it. That's what those changes did. So we'll call this observer. Hit enter. And now I'm in the name field. I can make a change there if I want, type something new, or just hit enter on it. In the description, I can say, this is my awesome class. Enter. Notice caret goes here. If I want the caret to go anywhere else, for example, like at the end or maybe here, for example, I can do that. And the way I do that is I come into options and I want to set a final target. So final target works with fields, and so we simply go to the location where we want that target to be, like for example at the end of the of this property right here. We're going to go in and we're going to set final target from this list. Okay, so Jose, I apologize for not doing this live for you right then and there when you asked in the other session. I thought I was going to be able to follow up on that, and apparently I was too busy to do that. So I did not do that. So let's delete this. We'll do one more time. XS. Come in here. We're going to call this Amanda because I hear Amanda talking. She wants lunch. Amanda wants lunch. Enter. And enter. Enter. And now we're out at the final target. Okay. And with that, Amanda, I pass it to you.
All right. Well, you did have one more question from Mark. Another Mark.
I need a lot of code analysis rules.
Yes. It's a code analysis rules that need culture info as part of string formatting. Do you have any expansions on string.format with culture info by default?
I don't think so. Here's how you can tell, though. You go into DevExpress options, and you're going to go into the templates page. And on the templates page, you're going to find the search right here, and you're going to search for culture, for example. And instead of hitting the search button right next to it, you're going to hit this one, which says find text inside templates. See if we have anything. So what do we have? This TC right here. Oh, okay, this is interesting. This is in a, I was just looking at this earlier. This is a, this is an implementation of I-value converter. I was looking at this because its comment was wrong. It's an incorrect comment right up here at the top. It implements, the correct comment should be it implements, we're going to fix this by the way, the I-value converter implementer. This is for Wpf development. Like that. That's what the real comment should be. So let's see what else we get, if there's anything else with culture showing up. And in the meantime, Mark, can you give us a, can you paste in an example of some of the code? Because what we can do is we can string comparison from culture. Oh, this is interesting. I wonder if this is of value. So interesting. So notice I found some of these. So this is for, I think, the string.compares call. I think it's an optional parameter. And so we have some pieces here. Oh, Jose, one other thing I just remembered. In the template we created for you, one of the things we did not do is we did not set context to this. And we should, so that that XS doesn't expand in places we don't want it to expand. So here, what we want to do is set context that matches the a template for example, for C. Let's go over here, jump into class with constructor, alias. Oh, come on, no context here. I guess it's back in the original one then. Get back here. Okay, there we go. On empty line, but not a comment interface method or property. Okay, that'll work for me. Copy that context. Now I'm go back to where we were with the XX template, and now right-click and paste the context. So just want to have that context so this only expands on an empty line. We're not in a comment. We also don't want to be in the string. It looks like that one was missing from the other one. We don't want to be in the string either. Not in interface, not in method or property. So the other piece I'd add is not in the string. Not in string. Okay, so that's just wrapping that up for you. Jose, go back. I'm going to continue to find culture, see if it shows up any other place that's interesting. What's this? Exception class with generic field. No, not interesting to me. Not interesting. And then back around. So the answer is no. So Mark, did we get? So I need to have culture info in string format. Maybe just understand that maybe context I can set. Yeah. So here's the deal. So let's look at the string format call. Let me click OK on this. Look at the string.format call. Look at the additional parameters to it, and then we'll see what we need to do to fix that. There's one other option that this may be. Actually, you can look at this for me, Rory. Look into the options in the refactorings and see if you see a refactoring option for use string format, and let me know what you find there, if there's anything in there. In the meantime, let's create a new variable type string called message and set that equal to hello Mark, and let's come in here and we're going to say introduce format item, and then promote to parameter, and we'll say name like this. Okay, so what's going on with string.format? The format provider. Yeah, is it Mark? Is it in the format provider? Is that what we need to do? Is that what we're talking about? Let's see if that's.
Yes, it is.
Right. Okay.
Yes, it is in the format provider.
All right, it is. So that's what we need. We need something right in there. So look, if Rory, have you found by chance? Have you had a chance to answer yes or no to that?
Just trying to find that now.
Okay, no problem. Just let me know once you find an answer to that, if it's there, yes or no on that. So we'll call this. I'm going to call this provider right here. Let's go in and just declare and see what options we have here. Declare local. Wait, no. Oh wait, I see. Okay, cool, awesome. So look over on the right, declare local. I can do it as a string or an I format provider. So that's awesome. So we're going to do it as an I format provider, and then let's create a new instance of. Whoops. Let's create a new instance of this. To be able to copy this clipboard, type in NINST for new instance. Oh, but I can't do it because we need an implementer is what we need. Let's declare the class. So it implements I format provider. And Jose, if you happen to know of already any implementers, is that maybe that's the thing? Is there implementers out there that I don't know of? And Jose, if there are, string format. Oh, here he gave me an example. Let's see if I can copy that to the clipboard. Can I not copy this to the clipboard? Oh, they're down here. I think I see it. Okay. Copy. Let me paste in what Mark just sent me to work with. String format, culture info, system globalization. Okay, there we go. Invariant. And then here we have the other two pieces. Okay, so this is the piece I'm looking for right here. We just get that. Okay. And then we'll paste it in here. Okay, so this, it looks like, okay, so Mark, this I see is what you need, culture info, invariant culture. I think I actually saw this in here. Let's see if that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's see if it's in there. So invariant culture, I think, was in there. No? What did I find? String comparison. Ah, oh, I see. Okay. So what we would need to do is create new templates. One way to solve this problem is to let's create a duplicate of this one right here. And whoops, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do it with the same name. Create duplicate and call this what is it? It's CI culture info. And then invariant culture. So CI would be this. And then what it would do is it would expand out to that. And so what we could do is this. And I would recommend probably putting this in your own folder rather than the folder I put here. So what we could do is this, is now you create that template and type in CII like this, and hit spacebar and get that piece out. So not too hard to get, a portion of this quickly. Mark, is that useful to you, or are you more interested in string format, always putting that there? I'll wait for his response. And Rory, in the meantime, did you find any option on this with regard to string format?
I was unable to find anything like that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not the sort of thing I do with very often, so I'm not entirely sure.
Mark says, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mark says it is. I'm looking at string.format always in though?
It is. I'm looking at string.format always in that. In though, I think. So yeah, so it sounds like anytime, so it sounds like you want an option for use string format that puts culture info and invariant culture in there, and maybe even, is it always invariant culture for you when you do this?
Yeah, he says that's right.
Okay. So
maybe if we were to put a field around that part.
Yeah, yeah. So we can do that as an option. I agree. That should be an option inside of there. And Mark, maybe you could do this. Oh, it's just not always. So Mark, send me an email on this and give me, if you could, let me give you my email address on here. Give me more details on, this is my email address, at markdown@devexpress.com. Tell me, when you need it, when you don't, what kind of, and if you need something else, that sort of thing. So I get a good, if I can get a sense of when the times are you need it, we can come up with the most efficient path for delivering this. That's the thing. So and I'll do some research on this too. after I finish up the stuff I'm working on for the top secret stuff I'm working on for something else. But at any rate, I'll put on my list to do some research on this, or I'll give one of the devs a task to research this, so we can get a better sense of when this is needed, and then what we can do is then either present it as an option or do a field like Rory was saying. Okay, but for now at least, I suggest creating a template. In the meantime, for the piece you use frequently. And just do that as a workaround, right? So you can be here and you can just type in CII like that, and then expands, and then you're, ready to go to your next piece. Okay. All right. So Mark, I'll look forward to hearing from you, and I'll pass that on to our devs, and we'll look at it. You're welcome, Mark. Not bad, huh, Rory? This is a long session, like almost 2 hours, but we are there for you, kids.
Oh yeah.
Tell your friends. We are there for you. Yeah, it's a mandate from the president. We are here as long as you guys are asking us questions. So we are your slaves. So anyway, I think that's it. Sounds like we answered all the questions. Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you guys with those detailed questions. And I think I'm going to pass it over to you, Amanda. Thanks for sticking with us too, Amanda.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Rory, too. Thanks, Mark. So, everybody, we have 3 more webinars this week. Tomorrow we have ASP.NET HTML Editor Getting Started. Learn how to use the ASPX HTML Editor from scratch with Mehul Harry. He'll start with the basics of using the ASPX HTML Editor in a project, then explore some of its features, and finally add spell checking and customization capabilities. Thursday, business letters and mail merge with rich text edit. In this webinar, we'll learn how to work with Rich Text Editor's mail merge features. We'll go over fields, tables, data binding, and everything else we need to design and email custom business letters with Azure Botash. And our final webinar of the week, Creating Your Own Financial Indicators, a walkthrough on how to create a new custom indicator and add it to its own pane with charting evangelist Brian Wood. We have a full lineup of webinars currently scheduled through March, and we have a CodeRush webinar every Tuesday, right, Mark?
We do. Every Tuesday at 12, Rory and I will stay here with you and try to give you insight into the product that you can't find anywhere else, or that you just want to get because you don't want to read a book or watch a movie. see us live. Work
next
with
week.
the product.
Next week, I believe we're doing declaring and refactoring events with CodeRush.
We are, and I'm hoping that's going to go a lot quicker than this. I think that's going to be like 30, 40 minutes.
Uh-huh. I'll just have my lunch delivered that day.
Yeah, you might want to do
just
that anyway.
Just in case, All right, so again, if you missed anything from this webinar or you want to review previous webinars, we do post it on our DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. Again, thanks, Mark and Rory, and thank you all for joining us, and thanks for choosing DevExpress.